Thank you. Matt, can we test? Oh, mine is echoing. Wait. Okay, it's still echoing. It's low. I'm echoing. Ah. It's good acoustics. Oh, so
Hey, Tim, can you talk and just make sure that we can check this recording?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
It's perfect and it recorded, so we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hey, Paula.
Yes.
Greg Curtis is saying that he needs the Zoom link. Did you send that to him?
Twice this morning to the Curtis60@gmail, something like that.
Okay, let me.
That is email.
Okay. And it came from, well, will it say Paula or?
It would come from Zoom. Say Cottonwood Heights, I think. Oh, it comes from Zoom. It says Cottonwood Heights Zoom.
Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So are
You
we
hear me, Joe?
expecting both Brian and Greg?
Yeah, I've been on the phone with them and emailing this morning. He's supposed to be testifying at a hearing at 9, but he thinks he can pop out. He was checking on that, so he may be a little bit late. Greg
Okay.
is going to be on via voice, not with a picture, because he's traveling up there. But anyway, yes, they'll be here,
Okay.
and they're emailing me about the link stuff too. So we're they have it, but we're resending it to make sure they know which one it is. So we're getting there.
Okay.
Just working out the kinks on this first meeting. So
Yeah.
Hi there, this is Ellen. Good morning.
good
Can you hear
morning.
me? Good
Yes.
morning.
Yes.
All righty.
Yep. We'll probably get started here shortly when we get some people on.
Once we have a quorum, we can start probably, right? Tim, you're on mute.
Yes, and I'd spoken to Suzanne and Sean were supposed yesterday, and they were planning on joining. So
Okay.
Chantel, can you hear us?
I can, thank you. Brian is just in a committee, so he's gonna jump on here quick.
Okay. Thank you. Hi. Hey, Suzanne, if you can accept the promotion to panelist in Zoom, that would be helpful. I just need to mention to Suzanne, if she can accept the promotion to panelist, that would be helpful. Suzanne's here. If you can accept the promotion to panelist, that would be good. Let me call her.
Caution, unpaved road.
So I see Councilmember Holton, so I think we have a quorum now, at least, Tim.
Yep, sorry I'm late. I was doing what Brian's doing for the opposite side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Suzanne's trying to get on here, so
If Suzanne's trying, we'll wait for Suzanne and then we'll get started here.
let me just call her real quick because she needs to accept that promotion to panelist, so.
Okay.
Oh, and Sean says that he can hear me, but we can't hear him. I don't see him.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't see him.
Hello, Sean.
Give me 1 second, Mayor. That's okay.
Okay.
Brian, are you in the Senate building cafeteria?
I am indeed. That's
I was trying to pinpoint where that Coke machine is. I think.
yeah, that's right behind me there, but this it's the only quiet spot I could find.
Oh, that's a good spot. It's a great spot.
Well, and I don't have I don't buy into the lobby lounge thing, so it's not.
All right. Well, if you ever want to sneak in there for a beverage, let me know.
Oh yeah, it's fine. I'm good. I will. How's your stuff going?
It was good. I was on a call this morning about childcare. Senator Escamilla's got a good bill on childcare, which I think is super important. So anyway, it's good.
Oh, that's good.
Hey, Greg, good morning.
Good morning. I'm actually in transit, so I'll probably just be participating by voice this morning.
Well, it's a nice picture, so it's better than what you look like in person.
I wasn't gonna say it.
We were all thinking it. Yeah.
Poor Greg. He's used to getting
the
kicked
joy of-
around.
The joy of photoshopping, right?
Yeah.
That's right. I've always threatened to have Pierce Brosnan as my profile picture. Somebody that actually looks good.
Is that Suzanne or
Tim?
Sean?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, anyone?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hi, Sean.
Is that Sean?
Good morning.
Oh, who? Yeah.
Yeah, that's Sean, it looks like.
All right.
So we're waiting for Suzanne. And Tim stepped away. So sorry, everybody. This will hopefully maybe be a little better getting started our next week. But let's just wait 30 more seconds for Suzanne, hopefully.
So, Greg,
Yeah.
Heather Collimore sent me the Disney Phoenix video that she put on TikTok.
All right.
It is a pretty outrageous house.
Mayor,
Yes.
so Sean is on.
Yes.
And then Suzanne, I was just on the phone with her. She's just having some technical issues. So she's trying, and Matt's trying to help her get connected here.
Okay.
So if you want to start, we probably
Yeah,
can.
so let's do that. We'll get started and hope that she joins us soon. So let me do this. Let me call to order the legislative update meeting for the Cottonwood Heights City Council for Thursday, February 15th. Thank you everybody for joining. We're grateful to have our lobbyist Greg Curtis and Brian Allen with us, and Chantel. And we obviously have some important bills that we're tracking that we're excited to learn more about and be able to ask questions. So I'll start the meeting by Paula. Let me just make sure are we recording? Are we good to go? Yes, I should have asked that before I got started.
Recording.
Yes, you're recording. Thank you.
We're recording. Great. Thank you, Paula. So Tim, do you want to say anything before we get started, or turn it over to Brian or Greg, or tell me what you think?
Yeah, I'll just say that we're still kind of focusing on the three elements that the ULCT is focusing on, related to advocating for protecting the traditional role of government, and every city is unique. One size doesn't fit all, and then unworkable or unfunded mandates are things that we are pushing against. So that's kind of been the general theme of what we work towards, but we can turn it over to, if it's okay, Mayor, to Brian to start out with, and then Brian and Chantel, and then Greg, if that's all right, to highlight some bills.
Yep, let's do it. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for being here, and Chantel.
Thank you. It has been, I will say it's been a very busy session. I think one of the areas that has been, I think this year better than it has been in past years, is on the housing front. Obviously still a huge push at the legislative level for affordable housing. I think with the governor's addition of Steve Waldrop as kind of the housing czar, and Steve's background as a former legislator, and he's been wonderful to work with, and he's been very collaborative, and I think he's been working very closely with the league. So the housing bills that have come out have been, they although they may have started out controversially, once they got into draft, to final form, we were able to work out the conflicts, and the league's been supportive of those bills, and so those are moving through the system, and there aren't mandates. I think another bill that has got a lot of attention early on in the session was Dunnigan's infrastructure financing bill. That one really at this point doesn't even impact the cities, other than there's a mechanism in place to help cities understand when the lien's been released, so that they can issue a certificate of occupancy. But that one, Representative Dunnigan was actually stellar on that. Very, very easy to work with. Very, very much willing to listen to the city side of things. So that one worked out really well. There's
Brian,
still. Yes.
Real quick, that bill last year we opposed because it gave development eminent domain authority. There were a bunch of other items within that infrastructure.
Yeah, policing, right, was another
policing.
Yeah,
I mean, there
that's
were crazy aspects to it. So it's all gone. So
that's true. The only thing they have is a very minimal, a taxing authority just within the district on the properties that benefited from the infrastructure, and that tax has to be paid and satisfied before an occupancy permit is released. Yeah. So it really, I think, long-term good for the citizens. It doesn't preclude the city from enforcing any, codes, ordinances, standards on the infrastructure that's being built. That still has to all meet all the standards. So I think it was a very good bill in the long run, and it got rid of all the crazy stuff. So that was good.
Yeah, I agree.
There are still some bills floating around that we're watching that are challenging. There was an interesting one. There was a fireworks bill that was going to be up this morning that had to do with adding Constitution Day to the day that you could light off fireworks, which created some concern. that bill got substituted this morning and is now, it's just allows for online sales of fireworks anytime. So that one now is concerning because how do you control when people buy fireworks and then use them? Because it's not like they're going to buy them and not use them off, you know, when it's off the holiday. So it's probably going to create some additional illegal fireworks where, you know, and I don't know where it ended up in the committee. I got on this call and they were just discussing the bill. So, I'm not sure where it's going to end up, but we haven't really worked that out. We worked the Constitutional Day aspect of it, but we didn't work the online sales because that was not even in the bill before. So, and they took Constitutional Day out, so it's a completely different bill. So I'm not sure how our message that we sent to the committee is going to resonate this morning with a brand new bill. So I've tried to reach out to them as quickly as I could, but I'm not sure where that's going to end up. So we might have to keep working on that one. There was a bill that Representative Birkeland had that would have made it, and initially it was very challenging for the cities that if there was an ombudsman decision and the cities still didn't abide by that and they got sued, there were damages and all kinds of things. That bill's been amended to include a willful and knowing intent standard, which is pretty high. That I think the league is kind of lifted its opposition primarily. I mean, it's still opposed to the bill, but not as strongly with that language in there. It was in committee last night. There was some discussion in the committee around attorney's fees where now the bill says shall, they think it should be may, they think the judge should have discretion. So that may yet get amended again, which is to the good of the cities if that were to happen. So that bill is still kind of in flux. You know, Representative Birkeland's been pretty adamant there needs to be some penalty. I think the rest of the legislature has been a little bit less passionate about really being too punitive. So hopefully we'll get a little more softening in the Senate before it gets passed. I know Senator Bramble's the floor sponsor, and he's very concerned about that shall in there for attorney fees. So I think he's going to work with Cure and see if we can get something worked out there.
Do we know where this bill came from? I mean, what was there a specific instance of why this even came about?
I don't know the incident. There was a specific incident that she mentioned, and I can't remember which city it was. And it, you know, I don't know all the facts. I haven't talked to anybody who was other than the developer who was intimately involved in it. So, I mean, basically, it's a pro-developer bill. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, it's really to help, you know, grease that through. And I don't know. I can't remember the exact city it was, but it was, and it sounded problematic. Like there was pretty clear that it should have been approved, but then the city was just being, you know, not helpful about it. And, you know, it was just,
what I'm kind of wondering, Brian, is is there an example of what would cause this to actually, let's say it passes now in this current form. We obviously supported on Monday with the language that said, you know, that the city would have to have bad intent, malintent, and you know, to be able to for them to focus on this. But I'm interested in, I don't even know how it would apply. I'm interested to
well, I mean,
it's talking about.
It's definitely a high standard, but you know, some errant email from somebody saying something about the project, I mean, you know, even flippantly could create a problem. Like you say, you know, somebody said, just kill this at any cost. You know, we need to stop this at any cost. As some, you know, council member or somebody on the planning commission, you know, if there are things like that floating around, that could create a problem for you. You know, it's just, I mean, it's the things that can happen that, you know, that you think are innocuous, but then when they, in the light of a trial, are made to look a lot differently than they were intended to look. So it's just one of those kinds of things that if they would have to prove intent, which is a pretty high standard, but an errant email, some flippant email could bend to their favor. So it'd be something like that would get you in trouble.
Intent specific to what? Zoning?
To just violate the zoning law and prevent something from happening that otherwise would have.
Yeah, so like, Mayor, if I may add, you have an ombudsman and a city makes a decision, a developer goes to the ombudsman and asks for an opinion. If they sue the city and the ombudsman says, yeah, we agree that the city was wrong here, and if they can prove that intent, then the judge has to award more damages, and that's the issue. Right now, it just allows for the judge may, not the judge shall, so, and that's kind of the difference in the wording, if that helps.
Yeah.
There are a couple other bills. Mayor, can I bring up a couple that I know that there's been some interest in? Is that okay?
Yes.
So I know we talked about in the LPC meeting on Monday, as Senate Bill 185, which is the third-party inspectors. That's concerning because it circumvents having the city inspect certain projects, or they can
They're
circumvent.
talking about only allowing third parties if cities go past a certain time frame to get their inspector out, right?
Right.
And I think we would want to oppose that no matter what, how long that was, because even if a city takes longer, a third party inspector that works for a developer or something, that's not, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's been some discussion on that bill to change it to a third party inspector that's approved by the city.
Oh, or the city? Okay.
So that might help
That might
alleviate
make it a
some
little more,
concern.
I mean, how do we feel about that? Matt, Tim, anybody?
I wouldn't necessarily be opposed. I think if our folks had to approve them, there's a lot of bills up there this session. There's a blue stakes bill. There's a lot of bills that are from the kind of construction side of trying to shorten these delays.
Yeah.
They're coming up with creative
a
ways
lot of them. Yeah,
The
everybody's getting a shot
question,
at.
the only question I have on that is the liability side of things on that. I don't know if that's been addressed totally.
Yeah, there's been some talk about tightening that up too, and making sure that there's no liability on the city if a third party inspector approves something that later fails.
Has the league taken a position on that bill? I can't remember, Tim.
They're opposed to it right now.
Opposed, yeah.
Like actively opposed?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, Mayor, the other one that I want to bring up, because I know that Councilmember Burrell had brought this up, and there's been discussion quite a bit with the league, is that HB 502, the critical infrastructure, the mining. And we had some updates on that on Monday. Brian, if you want to, there's a substitute bill that's being looked at, correct?
Yeah, there's a substitute bill. There's a lot of negotiation going on around that bill. I'm not, I don't know at this point in the session on that bill if it's going to get how far it gets, or if it can get very far. There's still a lot of discussion about it. There's some sense that it might just be a shot across the bow this session to get people to kind of come together and encourage some discussion. But I don't know. I mean, I just don't know where. I mean, I'm trying to get some intel on that. I haven't had a chance to really sit down with a sponsor and figure out what his intent is. So we're working through that. But I think in general, it's not great for cities at all. It's a terrible bill. The way the initial draft is that you would have to put a gravel pit anywhere they wanted one. There would be no way of stopping it. So it's really challenging in its current form. And I think there are some negotiations going on, but where that bill ultimately ends up and if it even actually moves, it remains to be seen at this point.
So Brian and Greg and Chantel, you know this. There's most of these bills, there's usually somebody behind it, a certain company or industry or somebody. And this one, I've gone around and asked and poked around, and there's no one that asked the legislature to do this, which is interesting.
Yeah. I talked to the gravel people and they're like, this is not our bill.
Yeah, it's not. And it's just interesting because I think this is something that House leadership just came up with, and it clearly was not a priority bill that they were wanting to usher through, or else they would have done work on this much sooner in the session. And so I do think they're just trying to put a stake in the ground to let them know that this is their intent on things. And I think you're right, Brian. This is probably something that they're putting out there, wanting to work with some people over the next year, and then probably try to do something more, earlier in the session next year. That's my guess.
Yeah, that's kind of the sense I get too.
So, council member, is that Representative Bollander's bill that you're referring to, or
Snyder's Snyder's.
Snyder's, it's
bill.
Casey's bill.
Okay, yeah, so there's another bill in the Senate that's just kind of casually sitting there and sitting back in rules. But there were some mining bills that were, I think, industry driven to start with. And those bills, yeah, if they were a shot across the bow, it's only because they misfired. Okay. I don't think that the industry was running those bills and attempting to scare anybody. I think they were attempting to shoot a hole in Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. To be honest with you.
For sure on those other bills. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah,
on Snyder's
is
bill.
Snyder's is a unique one that is a brainchild of some legislators that
Right. Yeah.
But
Understand.
isn't that is it House Bill 502 that would undermine Salt Lake County's ability to block the advancement of the Parley's Canyon mining expansion? Isn't that why the groups that are opposing that Parley's Canyon mine are, in opposition of this House Bill 502? Am I right? Am I understanding that correctly, Greg?
I would tell you that the other bill that Greg mentioned is more focused on that issue.
Yes.
This one is much broader. Frankly, I think it's whatever those other bills were. This is on steroids.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a completely different animal.
So is it then the Senate bill that is more directly attacking Salt Lake County's ability to deny an expansion?
That's correct.
Oh, I see. So.
Yeah, and those are still, in play. So we don't know. I know the league invited the gravel people in to talk about that Senate bill or one of the bills, and not 502. And they made a case. It was resoundingly opposed by the league, nonetheless. And I've talked with Dave Callis with the gravel folks, and he doesn't seem very optimistic about that bill going anywhere. But they're still working it. So I mean, we're keeping an eye on it. We're talking to people about it, but it hasn't. It's kind of stalled out for a minute, but there's still a lot of time left in the session, so it could still go.
I think it's probably fair to paint the picture of what the industry is trying to do, right? I mean, so what they're concerned about is mining rights that existed, and then zoning was changed that then disallowed them to mine. That's their whole premise, correct?
That's their argument, correct?
That's their argument, and okay, and so 502 was just some broad thing that didn't even apply to. I mean, yeah. So that it sounds like we're not going to have to worry too much about 502. But Greg, if you'll keep us in abroad of what is happening on that Senate bill, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I represent Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County, and they are very, very vigilant in tracking and opposing those bills. So, yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, one other bill I just want to bring up, and then if you want to switch over more to some of the funding discussion, unless there's other questions. I've been talking a lot with Chief Russo about the HB 84, which is school safety amendments, which there's a lot of really good things in there. One of the things that is a little bit perplexing, and I've talked with Brian about this, is they're requiring a guardian to be in all of the schools and defining who that is and how it's funded. I know the school districts, I don't know if I think they have some concerns with that. The concept is great. Don't get me wrong. The concept is great. It's just who these guardians are and what they do in the schools. Do they carry weapons or whatever to protect students? And that's one that Chief Russo and I have been talking a little bit concerned about, just FYI.
So Yeah, we haven't defined what the term guardian means, because we currently have SROs. Is it different than what a
Yeah,
SRO?
so the way this bill would work is that someone in the school or a parent could volunteer to be a guardian. It's an unpaid position. They would have to go through training. They would have a concealed carry permit or authorization. So it's concerning that there's a fairly significant fiscal note attached to the bill. So I don't know if it's going to get funded. But the real concern is, who are these guardians going to be? Who's going to train them? I've talked with the school district of Canyons people and other school districts. They're all very, very concerned about this bill. Part of it too is there's some provisions in there about having ballistic level glass on the lower floors of all the schools, which is millions and millions of dollars per school district that's not funded. So the bill's got, I mean, I think conceptually people like the idea of it, but there's a whole lot of things that need to get worked out in the bill, I think, before it's really ready for prime time. And I haven't not engaged with the sponsor at this point. I've just been talking to the school districts, and they're very, very concerned. I think it's out of the House and in the Senate, or it's ready to get voted on in the House. It's moving along through the process. And Ryan Wilcox is the sponsor. He's a good guy. He's generally pretty reasonable. And I just honestly haven't had a chance to really go sit down and talk with him about how some of those mechanics are going to work, but I'll make that happen. But definitely a lot of concern in the school district world about that bill.
Yeah.
I mean, the fear is that people that'll volunteer to do it are not really the people you'd want to do it, you know. That's the concern.
Yeah. Yeah, we love unfunded mandates too, right?
So Mayor, can we talk a little bit about funding, just where Greg's at with some things?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll have individual council members if they have their own questions. But yeah, Greg, tell us funding, what's going on?
Yeah. So, well, like most funding decisions, nothing will really be decided until the last week to 10 days. But one of the things that's so on the traction control and trying to do that, rather than seeking an appropriation, that in all likelihood, if we received any money through an appropriation, it would just be turned into one-time money. And so we're working on a statutory change to the Canyons Transportation Fund that would give the department director, Carlos, the ability to use a small percentage, like say 2% of the fund, which would be $400,000 a year, to contract with local agencies for traction control assistance. So Senator Collmore is aware of that, and there's a bill coming over from the House in which he will be the sponsor, and it will that language will be amended into the bill, and we'll then see if we can get it passed in the House.
Boy, that would be amazing.
So
anything we can do to encourage that on our end, contacting anybody, let us know.
May I just ask,
I will do that.
Did I hear you say $4,000? What?
400,000.
400,000. I knew I didn't hear that right. Thank you. I knew it had to be.
Yeah.
I thought that's not going to do it. But no, 400,000. That'd be so great.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that candidly, it's going to be up to the department director. That may or may not all go to Cottonwood Heights. He might contract, realistically, the two primary agencies are going to be Cottonwood Heights and Sandy City. I don't think that the Unified Place would try and jump in on that, but Carlos, I've discussed this with Carlos, and he understands our desire to participate in this and be part of that. So we just have to set a statutory amount as to how much he could use out of that fund. Okay. So I don't want to say it might not all be all 400,000 may not be Cottonwood Heights. Okay.
Right.
But there would be at least half of that, I would anticipate, maybe more, because more people, and we'll have to make those arguments when we get the bill passed about the number of vehicles and travel and impact on each city. And clearly Cottonwood Heights is the most impacted. So anyway, but that's the bill. And when the timing is right, yes, I will let you know and then have you reach out to your representatives in Cottonwood Heights so they can hear from you and the city's direct perspective. What I'm trying to make sure doesn't happen is that the vehicle doesn't get blown up before it even gets out of the house. So it's one of those that will come out of the House, get amended in the Senate, and hopefully the House will concur.
And who in the House is willing to advance that?
Representative Spendlove.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh.
Great.
Yeah.
So Greg, are we honestly trying to maybe fly a little bit low for a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
That would,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, because, Representative.
A
yeah.
lot low.
A lot low. Okay.
Yeah, we're asking for a statutory tweak that would benefit our city. And it's probably just not something that we want to be touting that this is what we're going to get. Because then what happens is, the other 250 cities come up with something that they feel they need, and then it just sinks under its own weight. So, And then also working on there will be there will be another food fight in the Senate on quarter the quarter money. Unfortunately, there's only about 23 million. And, if you do the math and that there's in Salt Lake County, there's, 15 entities fighting over that. It's just challenging on how much. I anticipate Cottonwood Heights will get a couple million, $1 to $2 million in that food fight. I mean, Senator Collimore is aware of that also. Would probably need some direction from you guys. I told Senator Collimore that we would want it for improvements around, Fort Union and 2300 East there in the town center type area. But
is that monies that could go to a roundabout on 23rd and Fort Union?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So it would just be generally for road improvements, and it'd just be that broad. It'd be road. This is Salt Lake County money that's held in a restricted fund up at the legislature. And this would just be money that UDOT would pass through, and and the only thing that UDOT does with the project is make sure that it's spent where it broadly says. You couldn't say we want to on Fort Union and 2300 East and then take it and spend it someplace else, So
yeah, right.
Yeah. So those things. Like Tim asked me this morning about the idea for a tourist center or something. We would need to. I've talked with members of legislative leadership. We're going to have to have a lot more detail and build a coalition. In order to convince and sell them on that idea. Does that make sense? I mean, just probably wasn't quite ready for prime time this session, but building the coalition to make that happen.
Speaker Schultz made it fairly clear that this would be a difficult year as well.
Yeah. And it's not just, and it's not necessarily our idea per se, but everything's having a difficult year. And the days of with a lot of the federal government money that was coming down through ARPA and infrastructure and such, there was a lot of things getting passed through. Those things have kind of dried up, and so the legislature is candidly dealing with some of the same restraints that cities are and saying, hey, we're not getting any money from the feds. And so we're not, we're trying to, they're scaling back transportation projects and, reducing scope and other things right now. So it's just a tough year.
As the speaker has said, he said it's a socks and underwear year, and you need to buy your own underwear. So that's what we're dealing with.
Matt, this is a family show. I just want to remind you, just so you know.
Well, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you, Greg. Anything else? Sounds like great. Okay, so let's go to the council. Any specific questions you have for Tim or for the lobbyists? Let me know. Let us know now.
May I just raise my
Yes.
hand in the video? Wondering on that scenic byways, the bill for having more billboards, or the billboard industry being able to have more leeway to put billboards up in our scenic byways. I'm curious on that, where that's at.
That got fixed. Their billboard industry is no longer involved in that. So that's done. It's gone back to a pretty simple bill on just how they designate scenic byways.
Oh, good. So the whole advertisement piece
That's
went away.
all gone. Yeah, we were able to get that stripped out.
Great. Is there any legislation related to deeply affordable housing grants or housing, and anything there that we should be aware of?
No, well, there's no, I don't think there's going to be any new money going into deeply affordable housing grants because they don't have any money to give out. So there's not, I think they're working on more moderate income, which is more policy driven and less financially driven. And I don't think anything that's going to require money is probably not going to happen this year.
Thank you. Great.
I did want to agree with Brian's statement earlier about Representative Waldrop. I think he is the right person to get involved in the housing. I was really impressed with him and his concern, or at least understanding of municipalities and our role. So even with all of the issues that we're currently facing. Okay, if there is not anything else, Matt, you kind of look like you want to say something. I'm happy to let you Matt ship if you want.
Oh, I'm just happy to be here, Mayor. It's a great day. The only thing I have a question on, I don't know who's tracking HB 507. It's construction amendments. Once again, I think the developers got hold of this one and they're starting to dictate things through this bill. So I don't know, something we need to keep an eye on, I guess. It's stormwater construction, and what the essence of the whole thing is, if we go out and fine anybody in the city, all fines we collect for the work we've done and for the work we're supposed to do goes to the state, and the state puts it in a education pool. So in other words, if we fine people for violating our codes, the money that we fine them for has to go to the state education pool. So the city doesn't see any for their time and any money for their efforts to clean up the problems.
Yeah, I know that one is being opposed significantly by the league.
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, put that one on our list to watch as well.
Yeah.
And can we talk about the roundabout on 2300 in Fort Union one time, someday?
Sorry, Matt, what did you say about it?
I just want to, someday let's talk about it.
Well, yeah, so the fact that we could get money sooner than later, we need to talk about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's something we do need to address if we're serious about it.
It's on our retreat agenda, Matt. So, okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here. We'll do this again next week. Thank you to Brian and Greg. I know you guys are busy, and thanks for taking your time and for all you're doing to help us. And have a great week, or I should say weekend coming up, and we'll see you next week. So,
Yeah.
and
Thank
actually,
you.
let me officially do this. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I'll motion to adjourn. This is Ellen.
Great. Can I get a second?
I'm finally on. This is Suzanne. I'll second it.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Suzanne, I
All
think
in-
that's a hello and goodbye. Yeah.
That's right.
All in favor,
I'll,
say
I'll
aye.
listen. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
All in
you.
favor,
Thanks,
say
everyone.
aye. Thank you, we're
Thank
adjourned.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone.